We're here in front of the Shigeru Kawai SK7, our studio piano. It is in fact just gone out of tune itself, so it's a perfect example to talk about the three primary reasons why these instruments do go out of tune. Now, let's first of all define what we mean by out of tune. This could be a couple of different things. You can see on most acoustic pianos, well in fact all acoustic pianos, there's going to be the majority of each note has 3 strings assigned to it. That means that even though the hammer is a single hammer on one note, that hammer actually comes up and strikes 3 strings in parallel. Now, those 3 strings need to be tuned to exactly the same frequency. And so if the string is the same thickness and it's exactly the same length, that means that those strings need to be exactly the same tension in order to produce the right hertz or the right pitch. So one of the reasons why you would classify a piano as being out of tune is if any one of those sets of 3 were not perfectly matched and you get sort of a sound. You can sort of hear the sound phasing as those 3 strings are not quite totally aligned. And we're getting a little bit of that on the G. We're actually getting a little bit of that on all of these notes. The thing that defines a honky tonk piano is in fact that the strings themselves are out of tune, even though between each note the temperament is still relatively good. So definition 1, we have these 3 strings that may come out of tune. And they could all be out of tune, or even just a few of them out of tune. People would still kind of say, oh, the piano's out of tune, or we got a few notes that sound a bit shaky. The second thing that could happen on a piano that would cause it to be defined as out of tune is if you actually have all 3 strings that start to move together away from one another, and so the space between each string, in other words, the step up from a particular hertz to another particular hertz starts to get a little bit wonky, and then that would be called the temperament kind of becoming a little bit out or not properly set. So either one of those things happened, the piano's called out of tune. Now, why does it happen in the first place? Well, one thing to keep in mind is that a piano string, when it's fully tensioned up, is incredibly tight. There's actually a huge amount of tension on that steel string. And so over time, anything that is wound like that, and it's wound around this peg, and then that peg is into like a wooden block, it's going to sort of pull that pin slightly looser, very slowly, but slightly looser over time. The other thing that happens even slower than that is that the steel itself tends to stretch out and become a little more soft and a little more pliable as it ages. And so you have the string just very slowly stretching out a little bit, but you also have this pin that over time, because of the tension, actually starts to untwist itself slowly and not always evenly at all times. The second thing that's going to cause a piano to go out of tune, and this is something that can happen very quickly, this is exactly what has happened to this piano here just over the last night or two, is the soundboard. And of course, when we're talking about the soundboard, we're talking about this flat piece of wood that you can sort of see underneath the strings and the bridge that's glued to it. So that soundboard, that flat piece of wood, even though it looks flat, it's actually slightly bent. And that's what we call the crown of the soundboard. And so it sort of looks like a leaf spring with the bridge pushing down with the strings, and then the soundboard being arched like that to provide the resistance. Now that soundboard is made of wood, and wood, as you know, reacts to both temperature and humidity, but probably humidity the most. When the humidity goes down, that wood is actually going to shrink a little bit, which means it's actually going to pull itself flatter. And so that whole bridge that the strings are pulled over is going to move down as well, and that's going to lower the tension of the strings. And so every time the humidity drops on a piano, you will usually have a shift in the pitch of the piano because of that. Likewise, if the humidity skyrockets and the wood is now absorbing all that moisture, the wood tends to expand, and so that curve actually pushes up like that, pushes up on the bridge, and so the strings become that much tighter, and so the pitch would go up. So normally when you have a shift of humidity up, it's going to go a bit sharp, and shift of humidity down, and the piano will go flat. So not only are you not going to be right at concert pitch, But of course, pianos are never cooperative. They never go up and down perfectly uniformly. You always have a few sections that go up faster or down faster than others. The last reason why a piano may go out of tune is, of course, when you're playing the instrument and you're really kind of giving it a maximum force and you're hitting that hammer up against the string, you're actually putting that string under quite a bit of vibration. You're injecting a lot of energy into that string, and so the more it's vibrating and the more that the string is kind of getting stretched out and is getting excited by all of that different mechanical energy being sort of injected into it with the hammer, that string actually loosens up a little bit over time as well because of that. So if you're playing the instrument a lot versus not, a piano that gets played more is going to go out of tune faster than a piano that's not. Sounds logical, but that's the reason why it happens. Piano, just over time, generally is going to go out of tune because those pins are going to move and stretch just ever so slightly. So that's the second reason. Of course, the third reason being that soundboard is going to be sensitive to temperature, humidity, and when the temperature, humidity goes up and the wood expands, it's going to go sharp, and when it dries out and gets a little colder, the wood shrinks and it's going to go flat. So thank you very much for watching. I hope the video has been helpful. Now you know exactly what it is for a piano to be out of tune and what causes it to go out of tune. If this is the first time to the channel, we'd really appreciate if you subscribed. We love to make new content, and of course, if you leave a comment, let us know what you thought of the video or maybe even suggestions for future videos. We always try and reply, and we appreciate the feedback. Again, my name is Stu Harrison. You've been watching the Merriam Pianos channel. We'll see you back for next time.